You're tuning into the Journey to Your Best Self podcast, where we explore the past holistic well-being, personal growth, and living a fulfilling life. Each episode, we bring you insightful conversations, practical tools, and inspiring stories to help you integrate your mind, body, and spirit on your journey to becoming your best self. Let's dive in and embark on this journey together. And welcome back to the Journey to Your Best Self podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian O'Neill, joined by my sister, Tara, clinical hypnotherapist, life coach, and yoga instructor. Today, we're absolutely thrilled to welcome Giovanna Silvestri, a lifestyle and wellness influencer, entrepreneur, and soon-to-be published author of Confused Girl, Find Your Peace in the Chaos. Giovanna's journey has been an inspiring blend of creativity and self-discovery, taking her from Hollywood sets to the launch of her international yoga-aware brand, Confused Girl in the City. With a unique perspective on finding peace amidst the chaos, Giovanna has been featured in Forbes, NBC, and the London Daily Post. She combines her passion for mindfulness, yoga, and healing crystals, all of which we love here at Your One Self and Journey to Your Best Self, to guide others on their path for clarity and empowerment. So without any further ado, Giovanna, welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, and loved the intro.
Absolutely. There's quite a bit to it there. Tara, how are you as well?
Good. Yeah, we're super excited. This is, right up my alley for sure. So let's get into it. Oh,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Still some yoga pants together, two of my favorite things. I mean, come on.
Mine too, girl. Mine too.
Yes.
Well, we did a little where are you from and a little bit about where we are at before recording. What city is this Confused Girl in? Where, if you can take us back to kind of the genesis of the branding, where were you? Was it like in those Hollywood days where that was taking place in your mind?
Yes. The most confusing city in the world, Los Angeles. Welcome. The city of devils and angels. And I actually grew up 3 hours north of here in San Luis Obispo. And my parents had an Italian restaurant there. And then I went to USC. And so that's what brought me to Los Angeles. And then I just stayed. So
can you tell people about good old SLO, and what it was like to live in this pristine, I don't know, there's nothing quite like it in that I've ever been to in the US or the world.
Well, SLO is incredibly gorgeous. And it's interesting because even some people that grew up in LA when I went to college here, like never had been there, never heard about it, because it's just that far. Like it's, so they like don't go that far. They kind of hit Santa Barbara and stop. But it's kind of like a second Santa Barbara, and it has amazing wineries. It has beautiful beaches. And actually it's the beginning of Highway 1, where you can take it along the coastline and go by like Cambria and Hearst Castle and take it all the way to San Francisco. So it's beautiful. It's small, and it was smaller, when I was growing up there. And it was a great place to grow up. Like I went to private Catholic school that was right around the corner from my parents' restaurant. So, after school, my sister and I would walk to my parents' restaurant. My dad would have like pasta ready for us, and then my dance studio was right down the street. So it's kind of a perfect family setup. It's not great for, I think, people in their 30s and 40s or late 20s. It tends to be families, retired people, or college students, because Cal Poly University is there. So it's not, it's not.
So you had the small town experience, and then you went to the big city.
And then I went to the big city, crazy Los Angeles, and I
what was your, before you even get there? So what were your preconceived since, like, for those who don't know, slow, even these acronyms or this insider talk that you guys are giving us,
Oh,
you're kind of in this place between Northern California, right, the Bay, and Southern California, where you're on the, like, central coast of California. What were your kind of preconceived notions about the more kind of famous parts of California? What did you think about LA before you had headed there full time?
well, I initially actually went to University of San Francisco first,
Oh,
which
wow.
is like a
So you
Catholic.
did the whole tour.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was a Catholic school like in the middle of San Francisco. And I wanted to go. I never really cared about LA. I never thought I would end up in LA. I liked real cities, that you could walk around and do the whole thing. And New York at that time was a little too far for me. And I think my parents would have been too scared to send me there because I actually graduated high school when I was still 17. So, so I went to university and I was still 17. San Francisco was good. And my family loves San Francisco. We would never come to LA. The only time we'd come to LA was for, um, Disneyland, stuff like that. But we always went to San Francisco, like Carmel, Monterey, San Francisco, because my dad was from Italy. So he liked San Francisco as a city better. And this was before San Francisco is like now San Francisco is unrecognizable. This was way before it shifted, you know?
Sure, sure,
And
sure.
and they have North End there, which is like the Italian section. So my dad would love like going to restaurants there and buying bread there. And we just like hang out there and go to the St. Francis. And so I would say I preferred San Francisco back in the day. But the thing about San Francisco that a lot of people don't know until they live there, it's very cold. And there's like always a cloud on that city. When you leave that city and you go to different parts, like the marina, it's sunny and nice. But like in the city, it's always overcast. And I started to find myself getting depressed. And I thought, okay, well, I'm on my second year here and it's been great, but I think I want to try something different. Let me just apply to schools in LA. And I got into USC. So I was like, okay, I'm going to USC.
All
Let's do
right.
something different. And then I fell in love with LA. So and where I live now, it's Playa del Rey and it's small. So it's kind of reminds me of Slow a little bit. It feels like detached from the city. It's just like a small little community. You don't have to wait in traffic to get your groceries, for a parking spot. It's easy to like zoom around here. I can walk to the beach all the time. So I love it.
Yeah. No, this is
So
very helpful because I
it
do think
is.
that there's a misconception. I, being from New Jersey, when I went out to California, and geography was never my thing, but I thought it was hot everywhere. And so I had the same experience when I moved to the Central Coast and I had, didn't bring my sweaters with me. And I was like,
Oh,
wow,
so
this is not.
you lived on the Central Coast.
I lived in Lompoc. Do you know of
Oh,
Lompoc?
wow. Oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
know
No
Lompoc.
one lives in Lompoc, and I lived in Lompoc. So that's in between Slow and Santa Barbara. That was my first experience before I went down to San Diego. I
Okay.
skipped the LA thing, so I am living vicariously through your LA experience. How did you manage the energetics of that? Because that's intense.
Like, what do you mean? In what?
In that it's very city. It's
Oh,
very
LA?
yeah.
Well, I mean, I came here as a student, so you're already in that student system. And I found like a roommate and we got along really well. And, you're on campus all the time and then you meet people and you make friends and stuff. But I never have been a follower. So everyone was telling me you need to do the sorority thing because that's where you meet your friends and all that stuff. So I rushed and like I felt so uncomfortable. Like you go into these sorority houses and everybody looks the same. They're wearing all the same clothing. Even the girls kind of do their makeup the same. Everything is very much the same. And And then they're like, they're all like, have you been to the football games? Are you excited? And it's like the same questions.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this isn't me, and I just spent 2 years in San Francisco where you just didn't have any of the sorority fraternity stuff. You're in the middle of the city, you're going out, you feel very cosmopolitan. You know what I mean? And I'm like, now I'm going into this. And I was like, this just feels weird. And so I actually dropped out of the rushing. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to start promoting clubs in Hollywood. And so I met this guy and I was like, hey, I want to, promote some clubs here and I could get, USC people to come. And so I started a group. See, this is my entrepreneurial side. So I started a group on Facebook. And at the time, like Facebook was new. I'm like aging myself here, but like, yeah, Facebook was was new. And so I was like, oh, this Facebook group thing. And I was one of the first people ever to use the Facebook groups because Facebook had literally just come to USC. Because remember, it hit the Ivy Leagues first, and then it went to the second tier universities, and then So when it hit USC, I started a Facebook group called Sexy Life. And I invited people to join it, and I would invite them to my, club nights.
So you're very you're a chameleon. So you can navigate your way through different
I mean, that's also like pre-influencer, like influencing too, right? You're
Yeah,
using social media to get people to
to go
do
places.
something or buy something it may not even be your thing, but it's for whatever. That's
Yeah,
pretty wild. And was there someone that kind of instilled that entrepreneur spirit in? I mean, you think your parents being restaurant owners or owning their own business, that was some part of you that was like, I need to work for myself and do my own thing back
yeah,
then even?
yeah. I think it's just natural for me to be a self-starter.
Okay.
I can just like kind of start things from nothing. And it doesn't mean they're going to be super successful or something, but I have an ability to at least get a little
What
far with
is
it.
what is your human design and your astrology?
Oh, okay. So I'm a Virgo, and my rising is Scorpio.
Oh, we're Scorpio season right now.
Oh, so this is going to go good for me.
Yeah, you're good. I mean, this is it. We've just launched a whole lot of stuff into the atmosphere, into the universe. So things are gonna get
Oh my
good.
gosh. Okay, that makes me really happy. I know, but I feel like this is a good moment for me. I went through a lot of tough, so I'm
Yeah.
happy to like.
How did you find yoga?
So okay, so yoga that goes back to I went through a really crazy depression in my late 20s. Cause I don't know if it said this in my bio, but I worked in Hollywood for quite a few years. And I got to I was working with like big celebrities and big studio execs, and like I was like right in there. And I wanted to be a producer, and I was on my way, and then I just crashed, and I'm like, I am so unhappy. I'm like being around these people and their egos is just draining for me. So then actually I went home to San Luis Obispo, and I was like, maybe I'll just take over my parents' Italian restaurant. It's already an established thing that makes money. And so I did that. And then I mean, it's totally like my big fat Greek wedding, really, because it was like I was clashing with my dad because my dad didn't want to do new things, and I wanted to implement new ways, and he was like, no. And I mean, we would fight about where to sit people. Like he wouldn't let me sit people. Like
It
take
sounds
in.
like Gordon Ramsay needed to be called or something.
Right. No, seriously. Like my dad was like, no, I know where to seat them, because my dad seriously was a genius like this. I mean, he could cram as many people in that restaurant as humanly possible. I mean, if he could put tables on the roof, he would have done that to like sit people, feed them. And so I couldn't even sit people. It was just, it was, looking back on it, it's really kind of funny and charming, but then it wasn't so cute, and it was frustrating and embarrassing when he'd like yell at me when I went to see people. It's like embarrassing. But okay, so then I was like, this is not working out. This is not my path. And so I came back to Los Angeles, and I was just a broken human being. I was just I realized that I had spent my life trying to do what I thought other people wanted me to do, or what I thought looked good, what I was supposed to do. And I was like, I don't even know who I am. And I felt like I had let this go so far that at this point I was in a mental prison that I wasn't able to get myself out of. Like I had no control over my negative thoughts. So the negative thoughts were like running on a loop. And I was like, okay, either I need to figure a way out of this, or I don't want to live like this anymore. So it was like, we're down to two options, girl. Like
Now,
screw the career at this point. You
right.
got to
So now you're
figure.
like 30-ish at this
I was
point?
like 28, 29.
Okay.
It's kind
So
of the Saturn returns.
Saturn return. I was just thinking that. I had asked you about the strategy.
It is the Saturn returns, and it hit me hard. It hit me
Wow.
so hard, which I'm so grateful for right now. And
Mhm.
and I think, some people they don't actually have that pivot in their Saturn returns,
Right.
in their late 20s. It hits them in their 50s or their 60s, or
Right.
when
Or
something.
it manifests differently in a way they never even noticed.
Exactly. So I'm actually grateful it happened while I was still in my 20s, so I could start working it out now, so that by the time I'm, in my late 30s, I feel really great.
Mhm.
Is there's
So
definitely the people in L? Is it something about the people there that were causing that? You said the egos, or is it that industry, or was it you? Like you had said that you were in Hollywood and you're climbing it up there. Was it something about the work that didn't vibe with you, or was it kind of the people, everyone trying to get ahead? What was it that pushed you away?
I think it was all of it.
Hmm.
It was me, it was trying to look cool and not concentrating on who am I, what do I really want, not feeling worthy. So you kind of put yourself in those situations when you don't feel worthy. So you put yourself in situations to be verbally abused and to be treated poorly.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I mean, I take full responsibility for myself on that, And so I
So
think all together.
also, I mean, you could contribute. I mean, this is common in society now that we see, right? That we see, oh, life should look a certain way, and then by the time you're 28, 29, you should have A, B, and C, and if you don't, mm, well, you failed.
Exactly. And I think when you're that age, it's really by the way, I'm going to go back to your question about yoga, because that's what I was leading up to. I just had to kind of go around it. But anyway, yeah, when you're in your 20s, and I actually write about this in my book too, a little section about it, you think you don't have time. And it's funny because when you get into your 30s, you're like, what was I tripping out about? Like I got my 40s and I got my 50s. And I also think this is such a cool time for women, because back in the day, we were kind of taught that once you're past your 20s, you're downhill. Like you should be married with kids, and it's not about you anymore, and you don't look good anymore. You're not interested in anymore. And so now you'll see women in their 70s who are models, who are writing books and talking about life in their 70s and this and that. And so it's really cool, because I think women, like, I have a totally different perspective on aging now. Like 100 from what I was taught, young is the most, being young is everything. And I don't feel that way at all anymore. I'm like, don't want to be that age, because honestly, it was very painful. My 20s were painful. Like it wasn't fun. It wasn't really fun. It was like painful.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So yoga came at the late 20s.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yoga came at the late 20s, and I had a roommate and she was doing, and because then too, yoga wasn't, it was like a decade ago. So yoga wasn't like as mainstream as it is now. It was still a little bit more niche. And so she was doing this program, 30 days of yoga at this one studio. And she goes, I think you would really like it. You should come with me. And I said, okay. And because I was doing more like boot camp classes and stuff. And so I went to the yoga class and it was so amazing because I couldn't get the loop to stop. So I was like living in misery. And while I was doing yoga, I wasn't thinking. And then after yoga, I had like this peace. And I'm like, oh my God, I finally got a break from this, you know? And so I was like, okay, I need to start doing this every day because I need to start creating this space between the thoughts and me. And then at this time, I mean, I was doing yoga. I also started meditating. I was doing like walks by the beach and praying and reading books and watching, YouTube videos. I was doing it all. And I was inventing my own things too. Like my own little tools to help me get over things and let things go. Like I started to invent my own little things that I would do. And so, but yoga was incredible. And actually after this, I'm going to a hot yoga class.
Yeah.
So you've been consistent. I mean, you own a damn yoga brand, so you better be doing it, right? If you're gonna be real, this is not the 26-year-old fake Giovanna that just influences for you. Practicing what you preach is what you're saying, right? You've continued it all the way through, and it's become a lifestyle.
Yeah, it definitely has. And I mean, there are periods where I'm like, okay, I'm going to do something else. Like for instance, when I lived in Indonesia, and while I was writing this book, I did yoga every single day because their yoga is amazing. And it's like open air studios and it's humid there. So you don't need to be in a heated room because it's already heated. And you hear like the birds chirping and all this. It's just like incredible. And their instructors are amazing. And so I was doing an hour and a half of that every single day. But then I went to Thailand for 2 months and I went to a yoga class there and I didn't like it as much as like Bali yoga classes. So I rented an apartment where they had an Olympic style swimming pool and I love swimming. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to swim while I'm here. And every day I'd wake up and swim. So like I do switch it up, but yoga is always something that I come back to. It's like a part of me now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my story is very, was it Yoga Barn in Bali?
Oh, so I went to Yoga Barn, but then I actually because that's like the touristy spot.
Yeah.
So like
you have to go to just say you went, right?
You have to go because you went, and because it's beautiful, it's stunningly gorgeous. But I really liked another place called Radiantly Alive.
I didn't go there, but
okay, that's more kind of where the people that live there go and nice. Stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I had a very similar experience with yoga and it saved my life. And I was like, oh my God, the voices in the head will stop. If you do enough yoga, I promise they'll stop. And so, similarly, you just get on that. You're like, all right, wow, if I can do this, then I can meditate, then I can pray, then I can do other things and have that silence and that peace. And yeah, so that's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Cause that gives people hope. Some people are like, oh, I'm always going to have a busy mind, or I'm always going to be this way or that way. And it's, the more stories that people can hear of this, I think is always good.
Yeah, no, I agree. I totally agree. It just takes that like simple action. It really does. Just take that simple action. Just like, I'm going to make myself, because when you're in a depression too, it's really hard to make yourself do something, but you just got to go, I'm taking my ass to yoga right now. Right. I'm just
get to class. They say that the hardest part of the class is getting on your mat, right? All you have to do is just get into the class, get on your mat. You can just lay there the whole time. You never usually do, but you can just lay there. Yeah. No, if there's a yoga instructor that kicks you out of class for just laying there, then I'd like to speak to them. But yeah, for the most part, just getting there.
Yes, I know it's true. And just the vibe of being there with I don't know, it takes you, it takes you like in the moment. It's just like,
Absolutely.
it's just not the same.
When did you realize that I can relate anything to Seinfeld? But there's like this episode where they're like, the stuffed crust pizza came out, and they're like, oh man, there's nowhere else they're ever going to be able to figure out how to put cheese on a pizza, right? Because they've like, that's the only place that was left. And it's like, how can you improve on yoga pants? And you're like, well, we can add crystals to them, of course. Like there was like, even though it was niche, right? Yoga pants were around, people were wearing them, and you're like, I can't just make yoga pants because they're there already. So is that kind of what was happening? I need to spice it up a little bit and make mine stand out, or how did that all happen?
Not at all. Like,
okay, so I was way off with that. I feel like it was a good guess.
I mean,
though.
I'm forever gonna think of Giovanna and stuffed crust pizza and
Yeah.
yoga pants with
Yes.
infused crystals.
no, when
people thinking in a room like, how can we make this better? How can we make this
when you
pizza
talk
better?
about
Right? There's one
pizza,
thing.
though, I was like, after yoga, I might want to get a piece of pizza. I was like, I want pizza now. So my dad made the best pizza, by the way. Oh my God. He had a real wood burning pizza oven that he imported from Napoli into our restaurant. I mean, it was just
Oh my gosh.
You gotta drop the
Yeah.
name of the restaurant. What's the restaurant name?
Well, they sold it, but it was called Vieni Vai Trattoria. But okay, back to yoga pants, not pizza. So how it happened was I was doing a lot of yoga, and I started this blog called Confused Girl in the City, because the one thing I was always trying to do before was like be Little Miss Perfect, and look like I knew everything and I was cool, and I was like, there's nothing more real about my situation than calling myself a confused girl. Like, this is like the most authentic and real I can get. And this is like also just killing the ego, which Eckhart Tolle says is a good idea. So let's.
I mean, if Eckhart Tolle says it, and I'm laughing because Brian knows he's like one of my favorite guys.
Yeah, no, he's so great. He's so great. And so I was like, okay, what's authentic? I'm a confused girl. Okay, confused girl in the city because I'm in LA. There, bam, right? And so I started a blog called Confused Girl in the City. And then I was like, I do want to invent a product. I think I'm going to do something with this, but I'm not going to overthink it. I'm just going to let it flow. So at that time, Lululemon existed, but no one knew about Lululemon unless you were a yogi. Like, just people that didn't practice yoga wouldn't know about Lululemon. Like, I didn't know about Lululemon until I started doing yoga. It was very niche. There wasn't a man's brand. There wasn't stores, it was just like, what? Yeah. So, or maybe there was a store in Seattle or something, but there wasn't stores all over the place. So then there was also this other brand called like Tiki or something, and they made leggings out of plastic water bottles and stuff. Anyway, these are literally there was nobody else doing yoga pants at this time. And so it was an untapped market. And so I was thinking, I was like, huh, that's interesting. Then, but I wasn't sure what I was going to do. Then I met this healer, this really crazy story. Don't need to go into all of it. Met this healer, went to his house, and he had this room.
I feel like that is what you actually do need to get into, because that sounds like you can't just leave it at that.
This is a nail biter.
Yeah, it is really. Okay. Or maybe the Cliff Notes version, the family podcast version.
Were you okay? Were you okay?
Okay, at the time I was doing like odd in jobs because I didn't want to because I didn't know what I was doing. I was concentrating on myself. I was like just doing odd little in jobs here and there. And so he put a job out to be interviewed on YouTube because he had like a YouTube channel, and he needed someone to interview him. And so I went to his house for this interview, and I mean, he literally like lives like up in the hills, and he's kind of like a recluse, and but he's like he's a real deal healer guy. So I knock on the door and I walk inside, and I started crying. I felt like I was home for the first time in my life.
Oh,
Mm.
wow.
I'd never understood that concept of home.
I thought you were gonna, like, because you were terrified and you were
Oh,
trying
Oh
to
my
text
God.
your girlfriend, like,
Oh,
well, I
this
don't
is
know what I'm
a
doing
here.
here right now. Oh,
No,
that's
I
amazing.
was
Tears of
freaked out.
joy, tears of joy and
Like
feeling
more
of
of a healer,
energy.
like
Yeah,
just
the
like all the
energy.
stuff just.
Yeah. It was so crazy. It was the most intense thing I think I've ever felt in my life. And so, and he was like, I told you we'd meet again.
Wow.
Jaw drop.
Wow.
You know? But I felt that too. I felt like I knew this person. And so anyway, I spent hours there just talking to him. And then we even had like, we ordered dinner. We did not discuss the job at all. Like it was totally not even important.
Wow.
And then he had this room just full of crystals, just shelves. That's all there was in this room was just crystals. And so he goes, go in there and just take 2 crystals that you love and take them home with you. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So I took 2 of the crystals home with me. And I was kind of like in a euphoric place for a couple weeks after that experience because I would just remember that feeling of home and it just felt so crazy. And so I was meditating one day and I was like, I had the crystals were in front of me and then I just had this idea. Oh my gosh, why don't we create a yoga wear line inspired by healing crystals? And I'd never manufactured clothing or done any of that ever. So that was like a whole journey to figure out how we even do this. And so, and at that time too, there wasn't all of these companies that do the drop ship and make it really easy for you. No, back in the day, I mean, I was meeting with all the manufacturers downtown Los Angeles. And I
Wow.
had to learn all about the process, and then I had to try to
Sure.
find the right price, and it literally took a year to develop. So it was a process, and then I didn't know how to market it. I was like, how do I don't even know if I can sell these, you know? So I was going around to all these fairs and stuff. Like there's a unique LA market, and I spent a bunch of money trying to sell my leggings, wasn't really selling. And then I was like, okay, well, let me try to use Instagram because again, a decade ago, Instagram was more open. So I started really connecting with the yoga community and giving them discounts on the leggings and telling them how I created them. And then there again, you didn't have thousands of yoga wear lines that you could buy from back in the day. Like it was literally Lululemon. And then there was this other brand, the Tiki, that was big then, and then mine. So my leggings blew up for like 5 years and I was selling products and I just kept growing it and growing it. And then I was selling products like all over the world.
Wow.
Yeah. I
That's
mean,
amazing.
I would even see people wearing them like in Venice Beach.
So during that year, did you have like doubts, or were you like, no, this is it. I know I got to do this, or I want to do this. I get to do this. What was the mentality?
Well, it was interesting because anytime I had doubts, like a sign would come to keep going. So like I remember I was talking to my friend on the phone and this is when I was selling a lot. I was doing well, but it still wasn't a ton of money. You know what I mean? And I was talking to my friend and I was driving. I know that's bad, but and I was in Culver City and I was like, I don't know, like I did all this work and I don't know, it's still not enough money and it's enough to survive, but it's not like I'm saving and blah blah. And she's just listening to me. Then I see a girl on a bike with my leggings on. And then I was like, okay, forget everything I said. I just need to keep
Fine.
going. I don't know.
I'll
I
keep
don't
going.
know where this is going to lead, but I'm just going to keep going. And so I kind of had a feeling that more competition was going to enter the market. I kind of started to see things like shift. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how much longer, I'm gonna be able to make this money. So I said, let's go now. Let's make everything mobile. Let's leave the country and let's go write this book. while you're still making money. And then that's what I did. And like, I lived in Indonesia, which, is not, you can make that very not expensive, And so I lived there for a year and I wrote my book.
Wait, that took a turn though. Talk about being nervous. Did you leave it in the hands of a team? Did you give control up, or are you just, kind of digital nomading your way through things? As
Well,
far as the company and the line.
no, yeah. At that point, I stopped manufacturing downtown LA and shipping from my house. I made everything like a drop ship organization, like and I made a lot less money, but I also didn't have to do the work because it would be once, twice a week. I was driving like an hour to East LA, going to the manufacturer, then doing inventory. It was a lot of work, which was
Sure.
fine, but I couldn't, and it wasn't big enough to where I could really hire people to do all that so it was easier just to make it a whole drop ship thing. And then I was correct. Like a whole bunch of competition entered the market, and then it just was like sales were going down. And so I was like, you know what? I just think that this book is what I need to do. Like, and I still have my yoga wear line. I'm wearing my Choose Love like hoodie right now. This is my line. And I still create stuff and I still sell it, but it's just I can't like rely totally on that anymore.
Any patent luck with the crystals? Or did you ever go there?
I did try to go there, but then I was like, it was a lot of money
Yeah.
to do that, and it wasn't big enough to do that. I did do that for my logo and my name, but
Okay.
But with the crystals, I was like, this isn't even worth it. And nobody else is making crystal inspired.
I know. Can you kind of, I will,
That's
God
still
damn it, I want to give you a chance to hype this up. Like, what can because to me, I'm not going to be buying and wearing them, but I think they're,
Yes.
well, can you tell a little bit about
right.
me? Oh, you
That's
do?
what I'm
God,
doing,
Merry
so.
Christmas. Okay. What, can you tell us a little bit about like what they can provide for the wearer?
Oh, well, okay. So every pair of leggings, but I also do shorts and capris, is inspired by a different healing stone. So I look at it as very intentional. And then it says on the website, when I was shipping from my house, you get a little card that said what the crystal helped with. And then now, in actually some of the leggings, like on the inside of the pants, it says what the leggings are inspired by, what crystal, and what it helps with.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I just think of it as an intention. Like we have a black marble stone pair of leggings, and it's called Patience because marble stone is that's one of the benefits of it. And I just think it's like I struggle with having patience. So it's kind of like I got my patience pants on. Like
Right. No,
binder.
absolutely. We know, most yogis associate everything as energetics, right? It's the intention that you put in it. And so if you put that energy into the pants, that's it. That's it.
No, it's true. And I will say they are the best leggings for especially for all yoga, any kind of exercise, but I would say especially hot yoga because they're so breathable, they're so light. And they kind of like stick to your leg like you're not even wearing anything. It kind of feels like you're not wearing anything. And then they dry really quickly. So they're amazing for hot yoga. Amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
No,
and
that's a huge thing. I don't know if people that haven't done hot yoga, but if you do real hot yoga, like you are dripping with sweat, like you are soaked from head to toe. So it's really important. Like you don't want to be weighed down.
Exactly, and they don't, and they're wonderful for that, and they're high waisted, so they don't move. You could run in them, you could hike in them, and you won't have to like pull them up. And so, yeah, no, and all of my stuff is very intentional. Like even like my sweater, choose love. And then I also have a beanie that says choose love. And I can't tell you, just by like wearing it, people love it. They're like, I like that. I like that. It's just like a little, you see
Right.
somebody wearing something like that and it's just positive.
And you get back like the positive energy, right? So you're wearing it, you're feeling good about it, but also people are reflecting back, and like you're making each other's day, like, oh yeah, hey, like, you know, that kind of
Yeah,
an exchange.
exactly. Exactly. And I used to have like a hoodie that said just breathe on the back, and then another one that said I am spirit, you know? And the people that bought it, they told me, they're like, I get so many people stopping me and telling me that they love this, and you know, and so it's just, I mean, how often do you see somebody walking around with that?
Yeah.
Like, I am spirit, you know?
Yeah, that's cool.
I
That is
mean,
cool.
yeah, I
That's a
think you're
cool
gonna
one,
have to bring, you're
actually.
gonna have to bring that, we're gonna have to bring that line back when we get into business together. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
that one is
that's a good one.
the, you know, got a little masculine energy too to it. So we got to why Indonesia?
Oh, why Indonesia? Well, eat, pray, love, duh. No.
Seriously. I mean, we already talked about pizza
Obviously, why am I
and
asking?
yoga.
Why am I
So,
asking?
and she's Italian. So, I mean, goodness gracious.
Yeah, you just go for it. You just really like go for it. I want to go. I'm going to LA. You know, you're in San Francisco. I want to go to LA. Go to LA. I want to. People think about it. Oh, it'd be cool. And you just went and did it. I'm gonna go write a book in Indonesia. That's. I mean, that took a little bit of.
Chutzpah.
Yeah, chutzpah for sure. Faith in yourself, and it's pretty amazing.
Thank
Was there
you.
anything else other than Eat, Pray, Love that drew you
Well,
there? Or
I was teasing. No, I do love that book and that movie, but it wasn't because of Eat, Pray, Love. I mean, it's hard. Like you know, you read the book or you see the movie, and then you're like, "Ooh, I want to go there. That's cool,
right,
right?"
right,
So
right.
there, so it probably played a
Yeah,
part because everyone always makes fun of me. They're like, "Oh, Eat, Pray, Love this way. You had your Eat, Pray, Love," you know, and but it was also because
but
I,
like low key, those people are like super jealous. Let's be real,
yeah, right.
right?
Yes, I did have my Eat, Pray, Love. Or I had my confused girl time. Okay. It also was because I had heard people, like people I knew that had been there and talked about how amazing it was. And I always go to Europe. I'm also an Italian citizen. And so you know, go to Europe a lot. My parents would take us to Italy all the time to see my grandparents. I've traveled all over there. I wanted to do something totally different and outside of my comfort zone. I wanted to do something totally different, and I had never been to Asia before. And I heard all these good things about Bali. And of course, as like a woman solo traveler, you want to go someplace safe. People were like, "Oh my God, it's so safe," you know? And so I went, and I would have left if I didn't like it. You know, I would have been honest with myself and left and gone someplace else. But I loved it. It was the most perfect place to write a book because I really struggle, like a lot of people now, with anxiety. But my anxiety will get so bad sometimes that I do that. Like I can't breathe. Like I have trouble breathing. And when I was there, I never had that problem. It was like the first time I've ever, like in my adult years, not had that problem. And I was doing yoga every day. And then I would, you know, go to a cafe. And if I didn't feel like writing, I wouldn't. I wasn't doing what I used to do, which is like bulldoze your way through life, Giovanna, and just go for it and bulldoze. And I was like, I'm not going to do this book the way I've done everything else in my life. I said, I'm literally just going to let it flow. And that's exactly what I did. And it's so crazy because everything that has happened with this book and what's happening now, I did it completely different, and I got the return has been bigger than anything I've ever done in my life.
Yeah. That's so wonderful. I absolutely love that. You know, and I don't know, off camera, we were talking about how wonderful of a sister I am, and, you know, a guide and a mentor and to my brother. And I was just saying that the other day. I said, Brian, I was like, how is this working for you? And it wasn't whatever it was we were talking about. And I was like, well, maybe you should do the opposite. Right. And I had somebody told me that once. It's like, what do you normally do? And it's like A, B, and C. And then it's like, well, did you ever try doing the opposite? It's like, well, no, because obviously I really love being stuck in my own stuckness. And so
Yeah,
I tried
right.
Yeah, but
that.
that's real. If you're somebody, I mean, are you an only child?
No, I am the oldest child though.
Okay,
It's
so yeah, same. Oh, so there you go. But if you were used to like being in control or forcing your will upon a situation or trying to navigate it your way, that release or that letting yourself be taken over in some kind of Taoist way of letting the universe take the wheel must have been difficult, right, for you to do, or
so difficult. So difficult because you're going against all of your instincts. And I would say like I grew up in a home too where it was like, I mean, my dad was just he was like, controlling, not in like a mean way to us or something. I mean, he treated me, my mom, my sister like his princesses, but I mean, with his business and just the way things had to be was like very controlling. And it's like if you want to do something, you have to like make it happen, which is true. But here's the problem. If you I look at it like this. It's like life's like a dance. It's like and it's like the tango or something, right? Where you need the partner and you have to show up to the dance floor knowing your steps and ready to perform. But then you have to let your partner lead you, which I think is life. Like life is your partner. And so you have to it's like you don't have to do anything, but how it's benefited me is that you learn the balance between doing and letting. And that was so hard because I never would let things. But then I'd be so disappointed when I pushed so hard and then nothing ever turned out as good as I wanted it to turn out. It never was as big as I wanted it to turn out. It never was like it just had it stopped. It literally just stopped. And so with this, I was like, I'm I'm gonna do what everyone talks like, not everyone, but the healers and the leaders. You gotta
Everyone on this podcast talks about
everyone
it.
on this podcast. You gotta let go. You gotta like work with the force and all of that. And I was like, okay, let's do it because me on my own is not cutting it.
Yeah.
well, that's
So
amazing.
It
That
is
and
totally
that analogy with the life as a dance partner is pretty taking people a second to let it sink in, but I really like that how you have to be prepared to be led. That's the second half of it, right? You have to let yourself the lead be taken, but you also have to be prepared for when that happens, right? So you have to have the book idea, you have to be ready to write, you have to have the consistency. Had you written blogs, any kind of long form before, or was it like junior year of college the last time you had written anything like more than a paragraph? Can you talk about that process a little bit?
yeah, so it's really kind of crazy because I studied business at USC, global business and international relations. That was my major. And I I didn't study writing. It was, yeah, kind of like what you said, like doing essays for class or something. But I always loved literature and history. And but yeah, I wasn't like a huge writer. I wasn't even a huge journaler. Like I started journaling to help myself get out of my funk, my depression, but I definitely wasn't even like a huge sit there and write for hours type of person. The inspiration came to me actually when I was driving home to see my parents, and it was like, you're going to write a book. And I was like, oh, and I got all excited. And then I had this like, like a lot of like when you think about certain things sometimes, and it's like, oh, that seems overwhelming and a lot. But the writing the book, when that like hit me, I just had this bolt of electricity go through my body, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm doing this. And then I was like, okay, let's figure out how to do it. And actually from that inspiration happening to me actually starting the writing was a year, because that's when I was like, let's figure out how to make your business mobile and get yourself out of the country.
Yeah, I love it. You know the book Journey to Your Heart?
No.
Melody. I can't think of it at the moment, but her message today, each day is a different message, and today was let the vision come first and then let everything else unfold, as opposed to having all the energy and trying to force the vision. And so that's exactly what it makes me think of, is like, can we, reverse engineering is it's a popular concept now, but it's really, there's truth. If you can envision it, like, and that's a lot of the law of attraction, right? It's like, envision it, feel it, and then do the dance, like prepare, but then let it unfold, right? Because you know that you got that electricity going through you, that there is that vision, that purpose, that feeling at the end. So that's like so beautiful. Gosh, I'm so appreciative that you shared that.
No, and thank you for saying that. And I think another thing is I want people to know is it's just because you feel that excitement and that bolt of electricity and you're willing to do this, you still get bouts of doubt, because there's a lot of time that goes between, wanting to do something and then it actually like happening. And so two things here. I became really good at following the breadcrumbs. I feel like my angels, spirit guides, the universe, whatever you want to call it, like I feel like it goes, you know what I mean? Like follow it. And I'm like, okay. And so really weird things, like when I start to doubt, like I told you, I saw that girl in my leggings in Culver City. Another weird thing, I think it was a couple months after I told my dad this too, before he passed away, and he was like jaw drop. Um, I didn't tell people this before, but now that everything's happening, I feel like I can share this because it's really cool. So I think I literally just had the idea for the book and I was just letting it marinate in my mind. I didn't even start writing it because I was still in LA. And there was a Starbucks on like Fairfax, like Miracle Mile area. And I stopped off at the Starbucks, got a coffee. As I was walking out, this little lady runs up to me and she goes, I have to tell you something. And I was like, what? And she's like, you're going to write a book. And I was like, what? I'm like, okay.
What?
Like, who are you and where did you come from? And it's so funny because there were two men with her. It looked like maybe her husband and her son, and they were like talking like, oh, here she goes again kind of thing, And she comes up to me and she's like, you're going to write a book. And she goes, and you will get to a point where you don't have to go after people anymore. People will be coming after you. Meaning like, I won't have to like be, like carrying the boulder up the hill anymore. Like, things are going to get easier and, and I was like, oh my God, thank you so much. And then her husband and son grabbed her and were like, let's go, let's get out of here. What are you doing? And she's like, like this. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so things like that happened to me. And it's like, then I go, okay, well, how can I let my self doubt go against this? This is miraculous.
No doubt about it.
Yeah. And it's not like everything's easy too when you're on your path. It's like there's obstacles, but somehow it like a door opens and then you're like, oh, okay, I'll walk through this one.
So do you stop yourself and say, like, look around or take a breath and, like, show me a sign? Like, do you say that? Sometimes I'll say that. I'm like, listen, universe, I need you to show me a sign. I'll give you a few hours, but I need you to show me a sign.
Yeah,
Do you have something like that?
Yeah, I definitely do now. Now I like blatantly ask. And now my dad's up there too. So I'm like, you need to help me out, Papa. You need to help me out right now. I'll like demand him, to come and help me. But like with before, I think it was just, I don't know if I would always maybe ask, but I would be thinking like I would have doubt, and I wanted to be trusting and following the breadcrumbs and on my path, but then the doubt would come in, and then I think they just help me. They just come in and are like, we're going to give her something here just to reassure her to keep going.
Do you have
You
a
s-
person that you would call, or do you have
oh,
any other practice if you wanted to give up?
Like if I'm not someone that really like I mean, I have my friends who I'll call and I'll discuss things with, but I'm not somebody that kind of throws in the towel unless I feel like I'm supposed to be going in a different direction, which I don't even think that's throwing in the towel. I think that's just like,
Sure. Pivoting. Yeah. So
shifting, being flexible. I
right.
learned to be very flexible. That's it. I learned to be incredibly flexible.
hmm,
Instead of, being very staunch and like, no, it's my way or the highway. I was like,
hmm.
oh, okay, that might be better. I'll do that.
Yeah.
Was that
All right.
difficult with a stubborn immigrant father who was
Well,
super not flexible? I know.
he was,
It's crazy.
he, he's not. I am.
It's like the opposite. Do you, building on Tara's point, is there any hope for those boomers or that gen to be, well, that seems like such a negative framing, but do you have hope for kind of that generation to be more open to spirituality and the secret and allowing the universe to stepping outside of the grind it for like a million hours, like you had said earlier, beating it until you kind of force your will upon
Same.
society? Do you see them being a little bit more open-minded in the future, or is it kind of left to Gen Zers, Gen Xers, millennials and stuff like that?
Well, I think it really depends on the person. And
Okay.
I think like my mom, she even because her and my dad had a restaurant business, and then there was always just a lot going on. It's like two kids, properties, restaurant, and there was no time to think, and you were always running. And so now she's like a widow, and she's retired. She doesn't want for anything, like she's fine. And but yet she's like, I don't have time, I'm busy, and I'm like, lady, what are you busy with? Well, the yard guy's here and I need to talk to him. And I'm like, Mom, I said, this is your brain. You can no longer blame your anxiety on my dad because he's not here anymore. This is like, this is on you. And she goes, I know, honey. It's just really hard to break the pattern after so many years. And I was like, I know. And then so like I was giving my mom tips on because I had to break that pattern too, because I was programmed like that as well. And I'm all about, I'm only putting 3 things on my little calendar today. That's it. 3. I will just do 3. I will have a very slow morning. It's like, now I really like self-care is like numero uno for me. And
Hmm.
my mom, she's open to it. She wants to be there, but she's just stuck in the habit. But she's trying and she's getting better. So yes, I do think if you really want to change and shift and live better and live more peacefully, you definitely can, but it's never easy because you have to deprogram yourself and program yourself with something different.
It's really a pleasure meeting you and hearing about all this. Was there a mentor or two along the way? Did you run into an author in Bali that you picked their brain? Did you have a yoga instructor that really kind of took things to the next level? Was there a businesswoman that taught you the ins and outs of that? Or did you kind of just figure a lot of this stuff out on your own?
It's so interesting because I do believe if you are on the path of your to find your true nature, to discover your true nature, and you're like, I want to live my purpose here, but I need help. I need to be shown. I need because there was a time when Confused Girl didn't exist, and I'm just depressed, and I'm unemployed, and I'm broke, and I hate myself, and I'm like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing on this planet. And I have all this energy in me. And I was told to go out and be successful. And I just feel like a loser and I have no idea what I'm doing. So it's like, and I was there and I get that. And that's so hard. like a really hard thing to go through. And I just think if even when you're in that space, if you can just say, I'm open, just showing me, they will appear, the people will appear. I can't even tell you like, just there was one person that really did it for me. I mean, it was so many people. I mean, they just drop out of the sky. Like I'm just sitting at Cafe Gratitude, like in Venice Beach. And then I start up a conversation with like this man, and he starts telling me something that I needed to hear, but he didn't know I need to hear it. And so I think if you just open yourself up and just are like surrender and just say, please help me, show me something, and I'll go for it, then they appear, the angels appear.
Yeah. The earth angels for sure. I love that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I could tell people that over and over again. And in whatever way, whatever form, they'll show up. Can you share with us, aside from your book, because everybody that listens to this will read your book and it will be their favorite book ever. But aside from that, can you recommend a book that was really important for you on your journey that maybe everyone should read at some point on their path?
Yes. Okay. So I have a couple, but I would say the first one that I read that was really transformational for me was Gary Zukav's The Seat of the Soul. I love that one because especially if you're dealing with like a monkey brain and a negative brain, it really teaches you that about the personality and the soul and how they're separate. And like, I'm not going to go into, all the things, but like dimensional living and all that stuff. But anyway, it's really, it's just
I mean,
great.
you won't ruin the ending, but yes, I get what you mean.
Yeah. I that book is fantastic. And then also I loved, Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth. That was a great one too. And I watched like all his videos. Like I would read the chapter and then I would sit there like with my book and like highlight things and like listen to him talk about it. And I became a student of how to live better, how to feel better, because I wasn't taught. I love my parents so much and they're amazing people. But I wasn't taught how to be happy and how to enjoy life and how to be grateful. I was told I should be and I wanted to be, but I never felt gratitude. I felt a pressure to be something that I could never be. I felt always like I came up short. And that was my main feeling for most of my beginning life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't feel
and Brian tries to piece this together a lot of the times is like that immigrant or baby boomer generation, and their values were very different. And it was like, well, they were so grateful for all that they had. And then we all of a sudden we had so much. And it was like there was a shame or a guilt involved in like having it. And there was growing up similar age, there was definitely that feeling of confusion.
Yeah. And also definitely, like I know from like because my dad was an immigrant to this country and he grew up like really poor in the south of Italy. And it was like a post World War II kid, where some days, like he never said this because he had a lot of pride, but his friend told me, he's like, Giovanna, some days we didn't eat.
Yeah.
Like we didn't have food.
Right. Yeah.
I know that's crazy to think in Italy, but I mean,
like, our grandparents as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did it help to separate financial success from happiness for you? Did that happen along your journey? Is that one of the reasons why you were more content or more happy later on because you weren't equating it with some Western, like American ideal, like, oh, if you make this amount, then you'll be happy? Or is that still the goal? I mean, we still want to sell as many books as possible. Let's be real.
Exactly.
Right?
You know what? Actually, this is what happened. I I feel like also because my dad was an immigrant to this country and worked super hard, that I was taught you need to work super hard and you need to prove yourself. You need to constantly prove yourself, and that never stops. And you need to, and it's almost kind of like this idea, I think, with children of immigrants, they feel like, well, we need to show that we deserve to be here and that like, we're in this country and we're doing things and instead of just living. Like people in like Italians in Italy, they're not like, I need to prove myself every day. They're like, we're living, we're having a huge lunch, then we're gonna go like take a nap. We'll
Right.
go
There's
work.
that worth though, that you could tie some of that unworthiness maybe into that, right?
Oh, totally. That it's all like totally wrapped up into it. It's completely wrapped up into it. And then so I think that there's that, but because my dad was so smart and worked so hard, we in my high school years and in my college years, they were doing very well. So I had new cars. I didn't have student loans, but I would go back on the weekends and work at the restaurant. Not every weekend, but when it was a busy weekend for them, oh, I was waitressing in the restaurant. You know what I mean? It was like a family business to the T. But no, um, I had the things people work toward, like the BMW, the nice house, the nice, and when I was in my late 20s and I was depressed and I'm like, well, what does the BMW really give me?
Sure.
What is, you know, having gone to this prestigious school like really give me as far as my confidence? It doesn't, and my self-worth. So I realized that happiness and I think happiness lies within having a good sense of self-worth. I think that is happiness, because if you have a good sense of self-worth, you can be in difficult moments where you're not happy, but you still have a level of contentment and peace with yourself. But if you don't have that self-worth, you literally can have everything in this world and be the most miserable person ever.
That's very
Beautifully
well
said.
said. Absolutely.
I'm done.
Yeah.
Not that I want to, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I just one last one from me before we wrap. I do love to ask for some kind of advice for our loyal listeners and viewers, something actionable. What's a non-negotiable that, a businesswoman, author, someone traveling around, just really busy and trying to make the most out of every moment. What's one thing that you really need to do every day to keep yourself ready for the dance with life? Is there something that if you don't do it on a certain day, it feels you're off a little bit? Is it a meditation? Is it a prayer? Is it writing something down? Is it an exercise?
You know what? It really is for me. It's going to sound funny, but my cappuccino in the morning. If I have my cappuccino in the morning,
Straight Italian through and through, all the way.
I got
She's
2
loyal.
cappuccino machines in my house, and I'm like, I wake up in the morning, I open up my curtains, and I'm like, oh, what machine will we use today?
That's great. You've
And
earned it. You've earned it.
yes,
But
and
there's
I
something about the ritual of it, though, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it? And that
ritual.
is important.
And then it's the making it, and I love like my oat milk, and then it's the kind of just like sitting down and sipping on it and letting myself just kind of like slowly wake up in quietness,
Beautiful.
and and I think you have to find those little joys in your day, and you also have to not take them for granted, because what I realized, and this is on experience, not just because it sounds cliche and good, if you can't enjoy these little simple things, you can't enjoy the big things.
Love
It's like these little simple things, enjoying them every day, like it adds joy to your life.
Absolutely. I agree completely. Thank you so
So
much.
good.
Oh, Giovanna, it's been such a
Yeah, it
pleasure.
was. I mean, it flew by, and we got so much to the end. I think some of your, your best comments and clippable moments were, you were solid all the way through, and it really like entertaining and down to earth and
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
relatable. I think to so many people.
Yeah.
Again, we've been joined by
Thank
Giovanni. Can Silvestri, can you give us the best socials to find you on? I know you got quite an online presence there, and what people can expect when they reach you there.
Okay, so you can get me on Instagram at Confused Girl LA, and you can get me. You can go to my website confusedgirlinthecity.com and subscribe to the newsletter, and you'll get all the updates about my activewear line and my book and all the things. And
Nice.
I'm sure I'm gonna be going on a book tour, so I'm gonna hit you guys up when I
Oh,
when I come to New Jersey.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No,
That'd
we
be
Oh,
really
amazing.
appreciate it. You're such a
dinner.
sweet and kind soul. Keep up the wonderful work.
Thank you so much. This was so incredible. I really like conversations like this. They lift you up. Like all day today I was a little tired. It was rainy, had a little headache, and then this is just kind of like zoop.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. Definitely. Soul sister. Mm.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Keep doing what
Yeah.
you're doing. Pleasure meeting you.
So nice to meet you guys.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Journey to Your Best Self podcast. We appreciate you being part of this community. For more resources, insights, and ways to connect, head over to youroneself.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, and Overcast. Your support means the world to us. Until next time, keep aligning your mind, body, and spirit, and peace, love, and self-discovery.